we'll be happy to hear from every one of you through the workshop. So what I might do is I'll sort of get up here and look all professional for the camera and present to you, because we'll put on this on our website, so we can make the voice a little louder. And we'll just talk to you about CLEANaS and Lighthouse. So it'll probably take about 15 minutes. And just sit there, relax. It won't hurt a bit. So welcome everyone to our presentation tonight. We're talking about CLEANaS and Lighthouse and the opportunities for Newcastle in the Hunter with the opportunity to invest in clean energy. And we're hoping to launch CLEANaS as an association, and also talk to you about the Lighthouse project. So I'll just talk to you briefly about CLEANaS and who we are. So we're the Clean Energy Association of Newcastle and surrounds. So we were formed in August last year. So a very young organisation, but our aspirations are very simple, and that's actually bringing the community and businesses and the emerging renewable energy industry in this area together in order to create viable projects where we can get community investment, where we can provide education and other opportunities to get the word out about how renewable energy and clean energy is a good thing to invest in, and certainly a valuable thing for the local area. And also, we're very keen to partner with other groups and organisations, so groups like Climate Action Newcastle, the Tom Farrell Institute, and other community groups that are doing amazing work in the clean energy space in Newcastle and surrounds as well. So why are we holding a workshop today? Well, a workshop is important because we're interested in getting the opinions of a diverse range of people to actually feed into the initiatives that CLEANaS undertakes. And so by getting your feedback and your participation, we can start the ball rolling in clean energy, and exactly what we're trying to undertake is to get as many people participating in clean energy as we can. So we also, through the project that I'll talk about shortly, the Lighthouse project, we want to make sure that what we're doing through that project is actually a really valuable project for as many people as possible. And we're looking to make as many wins as we can. So I'd like to introduce Lighthouse. So Lighthouse is the short word for Lighthouse Community Renewable Energy. So community renewable energy is really taking off in Australia now. We're, especially in New South Wales, ever since the Renewable Energy Action Plan was published. It's still in a draft form, but they're starting to implement it already. And one of the key actions of that was to help to establish community renewable energy groups. And so there's a real push in New South Wales now, following on from that, to empower groups like CLEANaS to go out there and hopefully spend a little bit of government money to create the materials and support that we need to be able to make clean energy a reality for our area. So when CLEANaS was sitting down and working out our priorities for projects, we started to look at other things that have been employed around the world, and we came across an innovative business model that was being heralded as a major success, which was the Mosaic business model, which is used in the US, where they use what's called investor crowdfunding. There's also Solar Share, which is a fantastic initiative in Canada, where they issue bonds with returns. So we thought the real challenge here and the best way we can involve the community and businesses together is through a crowdfunding type arrangement to finance through the community renewable energy. So Lighthouse is actually, our aspiration is to make a franchise model. So as a community group, as an association, you tend to reinvent the wheel every time you do a project, and it becomes quite laborious and interests can wane over time and very expensive as well. And so what with Lighthouse, we're hoping to achieve a franchise model that can be replicated time and time again. So this is a very important fundamental concept that we're working on, is actually to make it easy for those community groups so that they don't have to sit around and scratch their heads, but they actually have support and a model which they can then take out and practically use. So we want to make it as easy as possible, and CLEANaS is committed to making a model called Lighthouse that's going to be very popular, we hope. So a standard installation looks pretty simple, really. You put solar panels to generate power on the roof of a business, or you might have them at home already. And those solar panels can be used under what we call a net metering arrangement, where we have the power produced is used directly at the premises. So at home, for example, your solar panels aren't working at the moment because it's dark, but they are working when during the day when it's sunny, and more often than not, at home you're probably at work, or hardly any of you are actually using your power at the same time it's being produced, which is one of the fundamental issues with domestic solar, which we've identified. And so as part of Lighthouse, we're looking at larger scale solar panels on business roof spaces, where that matches the production, their demand matches the production, and it's very, very much more cost effective, and it makes for a much better model. So you can see here a standard photovoltaic system on a building, angled in the right direction, produces the energy, which is then put through a few different systems to convert the current and all of the technical jargon behind it, but it provides the power directly for the business. And whatever is the shortfall is provided by the utility grid. So you can draw the power at night, for example, if the business is working in the evenings. But during the day, if you're producing too much energy, let's say it's Sunday and the business isn't running, then you can also export the power. But we want to try and export as little as possible, because the maximum benefit is generated when you actually have it at home, at the premises. So the models that I was talking about earlier are all based around what's called a solar power purchase agreement. So the solar power purchase agreement is exactly what it is. So it's what it says. So it's all about solar power being purchased under an agreement. So it involves a contract where the business who's actually hosting the panels is buying the power directly from those panels. And in our case, we're looking at a community version of that, where the owner of those panels are actually the community who have invested in that, they own, and then hopefully they'll be able to profit from it as well. So the solar installation will generate the energy, and then it'll be used and purchased at the same time by the host business. So obviously the most important thing for the community group then is to send a bill to that business, and then the business pays the money, and the community group creates some revenue, and that's then paid back to the investors with a return. And we hope that return is going to be higher than what you get at the bank. Otherwise, there might not necessarily be enough investors who are interested in doing it. So what we have to make sure of is that it is a profitable venture, not only for the investors, but also it saves power for the business. If we can do that, then we've achieved some pretty good things. So that's the model in its fundamentals. And this is how it works on a nice graph that Nick put together. So thanks very much, Nick. This is excellent. So CLEANaS is an association. So we're working on developing Lighthouse. It's toolkit and advice. It's pretty simple in that regard. So it's a bit like a franchise. I hate to use the word McDonald's, but McDonald's Corporation franchises their brand, their business model all over the world, and I mean we don't have global aspirations yet, but the Lighthouse what we do is if we can create a really, really robust and good model, then we can give it to groups of community groups to empower them to do their lighthouse project in their local community. So, you know, you might have Lighthouse Bunnings Katara, or Lighthouse, okay, so, you know, there's lots of different opportunities. So Lighthouse can be used on many, many different roof spaces. So Lighthouse Varley at Atomico, you know, those, we can do it time and time again if we get the model right. So those, the key group here is that community investor group. So we're thinking hundreds of investors, and this is one of the beauties of this model is getting together as many people as we can who have a shared vision and all have a small amount of money to invest. And so they all are created into a business, and that business then deals directly with a host business who, as we told you, what we talked about earlier was hosted the solar panels on their roof and used the power and paid that community group for the power. So other people involved are partners, so people who are providing services. So those are obviously the solar panel installers and producers. You'll also have some legal assistance and a whole range of other, hopefully local associations, groups who can provide services to support that. You also have the grid, which is, you know, still a very essential part of this process because we want to make sure that there's a reliable source of power when the sun's not shining, for example. So all of that, I hope that all makes sense. It's a network of organisations that need to work together for it all to function. So obviously there's a lot more detail behind what I've been talking to you about, and there's a lot of obligations and benefits that all of those groups can generate from being part of this. So the community group is a very, very important part, as I said before. They will basically be the driving force behind the installation. So they're bringing together a lot of money. So they, you know, might be at the local markets with a tent and handing out investment prospectuses to everyone who's walking past, saying, "Get involved. We're financing an installation on a nearby roof. You know, we only need another X number of investors." And those sort of messages will be really, really powerful. And that's something that CLEANaS is really excited about, is that we hope that we're giving the power to the people, pardon the pun, and those people will be able to then take that out and then express, you know, their interest and their desire, as you've all, you know, come here tonight to do as well, to finance clean energy and be a part of something that's pretty powerful moving forward. So what roof spaces are the best ones? Well, so far we've got some ideas. A social sector entity. So those, you know, obviously council roof spaces are prime targets, but any organisation that has a very, very close connection with its community. It's a very important aspiration that we do connect businesses who care for their community with communities who care for their business. And that's really one of the fundamental drivers behind it, is that, you know, in doing so you could actually make it profitable for both. So there's a range of technical requirements obviously as well. So, you know, it's not that easy to go to your local fish and chips shop and say, "You've got a small roof space but you use a big vat for cooking your fish and chips. Can we put solar panels on your roof?" There's an economy of scale that we have to reach, and we have to go for a larger installation at the moment, because when it comes down to it, you need that bulk buying power. You need, you know, a much, you know, larger installation to make it financially viable, and that's what we're aiming for with this lighthouse system. Is you know, installations in the order of 70 to 100 kilowatts, which is pretty big roof space. So obviously we have to have the technical considerations in mind. So hopefully in the future it will be possible to go to a fish and chip shop but for the moment, it's large roof spaces that are the most.
How many businesses don't get discounted electricity at Woolworths and all the rest? Are there many left over?
That's a good point. One of the key aspects as well is making sure that you pick a business roof space where they are actually paying pretty high prices for their power now. So, big businesses often have the ability to negotiate a cheaper price. So it's all about finding those businesses that haven't had that opportunity and then being able to reduce their power bills through this model. And that's a really important thing that we have to keep our mind on as well. So that's the pretty much. I'm seeing that you guys are starting to get involved in the conversation, which is exciting for me. And that's exactly why we're here tonight, is to actually hear your opinions, get your feedback, because we want to know more about, the people who want to get involved in this. So, so if I may, I'll just go through this very quickly. So there's three main groups here that we're looking at getting feedback from, and we'll continue to do that post this workshop, because we're very interested to get all their opinions. But we want to understand their main drivers. What are they interested in? And what are they? What excites them about this prospectus? This idea of a solar power purchase agreement model. What types of locations are looking for this opportunity, and what types of locations would you like to invest in? Are you happy to put a solar power installation on a coal-fired power station? Taking it to the extreme. We need to work out, are people actually interested in doing that? Because it's really got to be driven by the community. Or do you care about putting panels on a more sustainable business, for example? So we need to know about that. How much are you willing to invest? Do you have $100 to invest, or are you willing to put a lot more into a project? And we've heard from a guy just tonight who's spending lots of money investing in these things if he can. And so, is there a cap or is there a bottom? What do we want to achieve there? And these are all the questions that we'd like to answer, and we want to get your opinion about. And how can CLEANaS, through its Lighthouse model, actually support not only the community groups the best way we can, but also those businesses that could host it, and the growing renewable energy industry as well. And so we need to understand from your perspective exactly what we can do to support you in these projects. And so we also need to know what concerns you, or what questions you have about this program, because we need to find the answers to those questions and concerns. And there's lots of good solutions out there. We just need to know what questions we're asking, and then we can answer them. So we want to hear from community groups. We want to hear from potential host organisations. We've had a number of host organisations already register their interest, and we want to hear from more. And we want to also hear about the solar installers. We want to hear about the other service providers. Lighthouse is already benefiting from legal assistance, which is amazing support that we're getting from Spark Helmore. And so other service providers who are sharing the vision and helping us out with delivering Lighthouse, we want to hear from them, find out what their interests are as well. So that turns us now to the workshop. So we've made some questions that we've put on paper for you in front of you. We'd like you to discuss amongst yourselves about your aspirations, your interests, and actually I'm sick of talking myself, so I'd like you to self-select a representative to come up and talk to us as a Lighthouse team and tell us exactly what your aspirations are and what your group found through the process. And I appreciate it's very early days, but you'll have some great ideas to share with us, and we'd really love to hear it. So, yeah, I'll leave it at that.